New year, new things. Of course, time is a construct to give us an artificial grasp of the infinite nature of the universe, and conspicuous consumerism has indebted us for materials that only have sign value and no true utility. And let me not get started on planned obsolescence. I'm looking at you, Apple. But as it is tradition, let's take this time to reflect on the previous solar cycle and ponder life's biggest questions like, why does water cost more than soda when water is one of the ingredients? Is the purpose of the government to turn a profit or to provide services to a large group of people who will be unable to attain such services on their own? If someone breaks into my house and steals my laptop and is found with 30 laptops in his house, goes to jail for theft, and the goods are seized and sold at a police auction, and I still don't have a computer, how is this justice? All these questions and so many more will not be answered today. No. Instead, what we're going to do is look at something much more controversial. Based on the behavior of humans over the past 12 months, we can surmise that there's a decreasing amount of common sense in the human race. What does common sense mean? People will tell you that you don't have common sense to mean that you're stupid or an idiot. But the truth is, a lack of common sense just means that you're ignorant. And that's neither a good or a bad thing. It's more or less an observation in context, like someone saying that you're tall or cool. None of these are inherently good or evil, just sexy. And so, 1 minute later, I still have not answered what does common sense mean. The concept of common sense has been pondered upon by ancient and modern philosophers, and while it is tempting to pretend that I read Aristotle in my spare time and to quote him to further this conversation, I know that our proofs and arguments must rest on generally accepted principles when speaking of converse with the multitude. You see what I do there? I still quote him to prove my point. Anyway, the common in common sense means shared, as in this is something that we all have or should all have access to. But as previously stated, some people don't have no common sense. How is this possible? Well, C.S. Lewis, in one of the books that he wrote that isn't about talking animals, expressed that common sense, among other things, is the name of a social virtue, and he thought it was directly linked to things like courtesy. And it is best summed up when he references the Spanish Roman Marcus Fabius Quintilius Marcus, the Spanish Roman Marcus, with the line, "It is better to send a boy to school than to have a private tutor for him at home, for if he is kept away from the herd, how will he learn the census, which we call commonness?" In other words, to understand what is socially acceptable in society, it can only really be learned by being a part of that society. It's only in sharing that sense that it becomes common. It is given to you freely, like a bowl of dip at the party. We don't know who put it there, but everyone is free to use it. And it makes the party better. This applies to so much more than just whether or not it's polite to belch at a dinner table. So, what's the point? When I was a child, I would hear people say over the hill, and I thought they meant over the hill by Family Guardian. But it wasn't until much laughter and mocking later that my mother informed me that it didn't mean that at all. And it wouldn't be until I was in college that I'd be taught that over the hill refers to the portion of the island directly south of Government House where blacks were allowed to live because they weren't allowed to reside in the city of Nassau. It was the land literally over the hill where the governor's home was and marked the southern border of the city of Nassau. At one time, this was shared knowledge, so common sense would tell you that over the hill was Baintown and not Carmichael Road. However, with no one to share it with me, I would not know this basic information that it was not only a geographic instruction but also a nugget of historical fact that explains so much. Now imagine how much more knowledge we've been losing year after year because we're assuming that persons have lived the same experiences that we've lived. And instead of sharing with them what we know and hold as common sense, we become annoyed with them. No more of that, said Stephen in his arrogant tone. This year, we are making sense common again. Before assuming someone is stupid or an idiot, consider perhaps that you might just be hoarding sense and that you should probably share it with them. Why?